For I, here's where students start having a lot of trouble because they think, well, I have 1 minus x. It's even worse when they see that the letter I have in the parenthesis is like one of the things I see inside the parenthesis is the letter that I had in the original function. So sometimes students take it for granted. They think I'm just going to put a 1 minus in some arbitrary spot and that's going to take care of it. Well, it doesn't. What this means is I go to the function g of x, I remove all the x's, and where the x's once stood, I'm putting a 1 minus x. So when I do that here, notice how I replace the x. It's no longer x plus 3, it's the quantity of 1 minus x plus 3. It's no longer 2 minus x, it's 2 minus the quantity of 1 minus x. It becomes important to make sure these are in the right positions because distributive properties and other such things are going to play a role. If you don't handle it properly, you end up making a whole lot of mistakes that you really don't want to have to make. So, in here, I simplify as far as it'll go. I get 4 minus x over 1 plus x, and that's all I can do. Now, I'll have some students that'll make a silly mistake and say, well, I could cross out the two x's. Well, no, you can't because I have two terms on the top, I have two terms on the bottom. It's a grand total of 4. In order for x's to cancel, all 4 terms have to have an x in there to be canceled. I don't have that. The 4 doesn't have an x next to it. The 1 doesn't have an x next to it. Pluses and minus separate terms. So now if I had 4x minus x over x plus x, I could cancel out some x's, but I could also do some simplification before I do that. But, please don't make up your own rules of math that are not correct. So, g of 4, pretty simple one. I'm going to replace all the x's with 4. So I have 4 plus 3 on top, 2 minus 4 on the bottom, 7 over negative 2, which is a negative 7 halves or a negative 3.5, or, it's a terminating decimal, so it doesn't matter so much. G of 2, replace all the x's with 2. The thing I have to keep in mind is here, on the bottom, I get a 0 in the denominator, which is a big no-no. Again, 5 divided by 0, I'm either going to say it's no solution, it's undefined, it's a domain error, it does not exist. There's different ways to name it depending on the context. But basically, there's no answer here. What that means is that here, 2 is probably a domain restriction. My domain would not include 2 because it would put a 0 in the denominator, and zeros in denominators are, quote-unquote bad. So...